Okay. Alright, so we're starting with special triangles and then we're doing every other triangle. You guys remember special triangles from last year? 45, what would this one be? 45, 45, 90. So what do we know about the legs on a 45, 45, 90? They are equal. So the ratio is 1 to 1, which means they're the same thing. That doesn't mean this side is always 1 and this side is always 1. It means they're the same. So if this was 5, this would be 5, for example. Okay, do you guys remember the hypotenuse from this one?
2.
No?
Square root of 2.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. And if you forgot, you could do like 1 squared plus 1 squared is 2, and then you square root of 2. So anyway, Pythagorean theorem. So the 1 to 1 to square root of 2 is the ratio of the sides. The square root of 2 means square root of 2 is square root of 2 times bigger than 1. So in other words, when you're going up to the hypotenuse, you're supposed to multiply by square root of 2. So if this is 5 and this is 5, this one's going to be 5 times square root of 2. 5 square root of 2.
Yeah.
Just ringing a bell? Okay, but what if we started with the hypotenuse, let's say it was like a 10, how do we go backwards to get to the leg?
5 by square root of 2?
Right. So if we multiply by square root of 2 to go up here, to go backwards, we would have to, it's getting smaller, right? From hypotenuse to leg. So that's divide by square root of 2. Whew, man, it's getting warm. Toasty. Toasty's a funny word, I guess. What? I didn't say it like that. I said, toasty. All right. You guys remember the other one? Trey, I talked to Corey today about you locking her out of the car.
What'd you say about it?
Well, I just asked her, I said, well, I was talking to you, and I told her, I said, you were a horrible brother, and I said, you probably should beat him up. She's like, yeah. Okay, you guys remember the ratio on these?
1, 2, square root of 3. Good job.
Yeah, so the short leg is the smallest. It's a 1. The hypotenuse is the biggest, it's 2. 2 is actually bigger than square root of 3. It's like 1.4, I don't know, 1.6 or something like that. So anyway, what does 1 to 2 mean? It means however long the short leg is, the hypotenuse is going to be twice as big. So if this is 7, for example, this would be 14. If this is 7, this is going to be 7 times square root of 3. Kind of like this one. Like if this is 1, this is square root of 2 times bigger. Square root of 3 is square root of 3 times bigger than 1. So you multiply by square root of 3. So if you're going from the short leg to the long leg, it's getting bigger by square root of 3. If you're going backwards, it's getting smaller. So you would divide by square root of 3. It's the same thing over here. If you're getting bigger, it's times 2. If you're getting smaller, it's divide by 2. Got it? Clear as mud. Allison, you remember this from last year? Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Did that kind of make sense? Well, we'll do some examples. She's like, you could have just lied. Sure. Okay, then you want to do number 1 then?
Okay, number 1 is the same thing as...
Okay, number 1 and 2 is like the example, is the base triangles, yeah.
Do we have to copy it down?
It's a 2-day assignment.
No, I don't really care about copying it down. Do you guys remember this little guy?
Hey.
It's not an A.
Jesus fish.
Jesus.
Alpha, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know you're right? It's the Jesus fish because Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, and so they
It
use.
just looked like an A, and now it's the closest A.
Looks like a wheelchair.
It's basically the
It's like a goldfish.
it's the Greek A, and it's the Jesus fish because Jesus Alpha and Omega.
Yeah.
Um, Okay. Anyways, this is a 1. So this is the actually. What will alpha? How many degrees will that have to be?
45.
Yeah, it's 45, 45, 90. So over here on this leg, they tell us it's a 1. So if this leg's a 1, what's this leg got to be? A 1. So A is 1. And if the legs are 1, the hypotenuse is square root of 2. It's like the base triangle. Number 2 is like the basic 30, 60, 90, but it is laying down and like flipped around though, so it's a little bit like 60 is up here and 30 is down here. So it's I'm not gonna write it down. I'll let you guys try to figure it out. Okay. Number 3. Actually, can I draw and drag these? No.
Aggressive.
Was that a cough? What that was?
The
It was
cough
half
means-
cough, half sneeze.
I know what it wasn't. It was not a belch. Leah was like, "Are you sure?"
I'm not reading that.
Oh yes, Sam. She got like 2 yesterday. 2 more? Okay. Was it 2?
Yeah.
Sure. I think it was
Just 2? No, I think it's like 4.
10, 15, 20, 25,
It's
30,
not 4.
35, 40.
Yeah.
Or did she have like a lot in a row yesterday? Was that yesterday?
Yeah.
I'm sure Sam marked it.
She had like 4 or 5.
You should have started a new count,
Nine.
Sam.
95, 100, 105, 110,
Oh man.
113.
1 out of 10?
She had like 4 yesterday though. 4? Oh, 2 more?
Well, didn't you mark him yesterday?
No, I remember I left.
Those are the. No, you were here.
Yeah, but he left.
Those were the 4 from yesterday.
But I left early.
Because this is exactly 100.
And then she had
It's
like,
104.
No, that's the 100.
and then she had like 2 after you.
Oh.
105,
How did
110.
she get 14?
I love how we're actually training. We're like, this is an actual thing.
This is very important. Okay, on number 3, well, it says, what's the sine of theta if theta is 30 degrees? So, remember sine, what was the magic word? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent opposite over adjacent. So sine of 30 is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's 1/2, but actually they already filled that in, so I didn't have to do that one.
Yeah.
But then it says cosine of theta, so cosine of 30 is what? Adjacent
Over
hypotenuse, so it's just square root of 3 over 2. Kind of like yesterday, there's lots of answers. Tangent of theta, on number 3, theta is always 30. So it's opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent. And 1 over square root of 3, what's that turn into?
Square root of 3 over 3.
Square root of 3 over 3. If you're not good with that, just plug that in your calculator, assuming you got a good calculator, and that will spit out that. Okay, and then it goes in order just like I did yesterday. So it goes sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent. So anyway, the next one is cosecant. So cosecant, remember, is just sine upside down. So if sine is 1/2, what's 1/2 upside down? What's the reciprocal of 1/2? 2. 2 over 1, which is 2. Okay, and then, of course, secant would be cosine upside down. So instead of square root of 3 over 2, it's 2 over square root of 3, which turns into 2 square root of 3 over 3. And then tangent, remember originally it was 1 over square root of 3. So if we flip it, it's square root of 3 over 1, which is square root of 3. 5 I thought there was only 4 in it. Oh, yeah.
You added the 2.
The 2 they already did. I forgot about that. Okay, so we didn't need that one. 5 does have 5 answers, though. So on 5, we're doing the same thing with 60 degrees. So sine of 60 is, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's opposite hypotenuse square root of 3 over 2. Same thing as cosine of 30. And then cosine of 60 is adjacent over hypotenuse. 1/2. They only did cosecant. What's tangent of 60?
Opposite over adjacent.
Opposite is,
Square root of 3.
adjacent is
1.
square root of 3 over 1. Square root of 3. And then they did cosecant. I'm not going to do it this time. Secant is what flipped? Cosine. So it's going to be 2. Cotangent is what flipped? Tangent. So square root of 3 over 1 becomes 1 over square root of 3, which we did earlier, was square root of 3 over 3.
Couldn't we have just like done that weird trick thing with 3?
Kind of. It's a little more confusing because there's gaps in the, like, I didn't write down sine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a trick, but it was probably more confusing than just doing it normally. Okay, number 7. We did this last year, but we have yet to do it this year. So let's see if a couple people at least remembered it from the other class. Let's see if you guys can remember it. If I know that tangent of B is equal to 0.0378, B is some angle. Okay, it's like how many degrees equals this. How do we figure out what the angle is if we know the ratio? The other class beating you guys.
Did you put
No, I wasn't.
negative?
What was the question again?
How do you find the angle B?
If you know the angle?
Tangent to -1.
Exactly.
I had to plug in my calculator.
Thank you for your help, Trey.
I got the answer.
Okay, yeah, it's called tangent inverse. So tangent of the angle spits out the ratio, but tangent inverse of the ratio spits out the angle. So you have to plug in tan inverse of this. And the directions say round to 1/10 of a degree. You just want the attention, don't you?
116.
Had to be able to hear those attention, right? You have.
I don't think the volume is very loud.
That was true, like a pixelated.
We'll go back and review the video and
We will not.
I'll throw it up here on the smart monitor.
You should just get like a recorder doing it a bunch of times and then just make a remix song.
Auto-tuner hiccups.
Yeah.
I can lay
To
it
what
down.
song? Like some kind of rap or something. Alright. I'll go to like 20
What?
to like 220.
Oh. You know, whenever she actually does it, she'll cover her mouth. Just really vocal.
2.5. It's really, it's 2.5 tenths.
Alright.
Wow.
This is new. Well, we did this last year, but we haven't done it this year yet. Okay. Is everybody paying attention? Not doing the evens? How do we find the missing side of a right triangle? Okay, would Pythagorean theorem, would that work on this one? Why not?
Side.
You need at least two sides to find the missing side. So you gotta use trigonometry. So what you do, use one of these angles, one of the acute angles, and you say, what's the side that we know and what's the side that we're looking for? So what's relative to this angle, what side do we know? Opposite. And the side that we're looking for is the hypotenuse. Which trig function uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. So we're going to set up a trig function using sine. Sine of this angle is supposed to equal the opposite over the hypotenuse. No. Okay, sine of 61 degrees is some weird decimal that you have to get from your calculator. Let's, let's go ahead and plug that in and round it to like the fourth decimal place. So it's point what?
8746.
Okay, how do I solve an equation when there's x on the bottom? When you multiply by x, what happens is over here it goes away, and over here you have x times this. So how do I get x by itself over here? Divide by 0.8746. 86753. And you would get whatever 12 divided by that is.
13. What decimal?
Let's see where they're rounding it. They say, they don't say, but they rounded to the tenths place. Oh, no, it does say tenths.
13.7.
So.
Okay, yeah, 13.7. And your answer should make sense. Like the hypotenuse should be a bit bigger than the legs. So 13.7. If it was like 137, you know something's wrong.
Really going for that.
117.
Pee all up.
I know it. She found it.
Man, I'm melting up here.
Open the door. Open the door.
That's how terrorists get you.
Open the
You know
door.
the ones that are lurking just right
Open the
outside the
door.
door.
Yeah. Doesn't she have to open it?
Leo will be our body shield.
Who will?
Leo. Closest to
Doesn't
her.
she have to let them through the door first?
It's a glass door.
Okay, and we'll hear the gunshot.
Well, Miss Fisher make
Yeah.
him sign in, so it's an extra. Yeah. And then we can just shut the door.
She's the one that
Yeah, I do.
She would make some sign. She would.
You're like.
I'm gonna have to give you a
we'll have a
dark
little
pad.
bit of warning.
Is she not sitting there?
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah, she was
I was like, why are we talking about her being sitting there?
Yeah, she would listen to you guys.
She agrees.
Miss Fisher will make him sign in.
That's also on the video.
Who do you fear more, the terrorist or Miss Fisher?
Getting uploaded on YouTube.
It'll be censored.
Alright, so remember how we did this? Relative to this angle, what sides do we have here?
Opposite.
Opposite. Which trig function? Use tangent.
Tangent, that's what I said.
It's a tangent.
Tangent.
From Mississippi.
Tangent of 38 degrees should equal the opposite over the adjacent. So we got the x on the bottom again. I wish we would have had one with the x on the top. What if the x was on the top? Do you guys know what we would have done? To solve for x times 5. Just, you can plug it all in your calculator once, like change the 38 times 5. But in this case, when the x is on the bottom, basically same thing as last time, but basically what happened is we multiplied the x up and we divided the tangent of 38 down. So you could plug it all in your calculator at once by doing 5 divided by tangent of 38 degrees. You would need to close your parentheses. It's my turn, Lydia. Which
6.4.
Stressing me out.
I'm sorry. I was just wondering, trying to imagine what your life was going to be like.
So,
Imagine like you're taking a test and like 100 people in college and everybody's quiet. And you're like, ugh.
good job.
Doing a good job.
I've done it in church before.
Like during the quiet moment.
Yes.
While
I
we're
did it while
praying,
we're
me
praying.
too.
It's not okay, it's not as bad as we were all standing up for like you say it. We were in the basketball, watching a basketball game.
Lydia had both of her AirPods in on silent like an idiot. And Mr. Zamora goes, everyone stand up to pray. So we stand up and he starts praying and Lydia didn't stand up. So I like, didn't really notice and she screams, "Where are you going?" in the middle of the prayer. I was like, I literally put my hand on her mouth. I was like, shut up.
Because that sounds like Kate
It's
style.
like it's like dealing with a small child. What are we doing?
Kate stopped praying and Chick-fil-A and Ava started screaming, "Where's the ketchup?"
I didn't know he was praying.
She's like, "Who has the ketchup?" Ava.
You heathen.
She like hit me really hard.
All right, anybody plug this in the calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6.4.
Also, is the X always going to be on bottom?
No, we just talked about it. If X is on top,
Yes.
you multiply, the number on bottom would be multiplied to get rid of it.
And then how do you decide where the X is? Just real quick.
It's opposite over adjacent, so the adjacent was on the bottom.
This one's on bottom.
It just depends on if the X is the top one or the bottom one.
Okay.
We'll call that.
Yeah.
You guys are kind of ahead of the other class because they have the Wednesday short class.